A long time ago, there was a young girl named Adebimpe. She was a very hardworking girl, and her father, Olumide, loved her so much. Adebimpe lost her mother at a very young age, and her father remarried another wife named Yetunde. Yetunde had three daughters, Folake, Aderonke, and Ifedayo. Yetunde and her two older daughters hated Adebimpe because she was Olumide's favorite. Whenever Olumide traveled, he would buy his daughters beautiful gifts, and he would buy extra for Adebimpe. He loved his other daughters too, but he didn't want Adebimpe to feel the absence of her mother. Therefore, Yetunde and her daughter hated her, except for the youngest daughter, Ifedayo. When Olumide leaves the house, they would start mistreating Adebimpe. Yetunde would tell Adebimpe to sweep the entire compound, make food, fetch water from the stream, wash all the clothes, including those of her stepsisters, and also go to the market to sell the crops. Adebimpe would do all this without complaining. She loved her stepmother and step-siblings so much, but the love was never reciprocated. Yetunde and her daughters would often mock her, make her do all the hard chores while they relax and enjoy themselves. One day, when Olumide had finished eating dinner, he called his daughters and told them about the upcoming dancing festival, which takes place every 4 years. He encouraged Adebimpe and two of her younger sisters, Folake and Aderonke, to participate. The girls were so excited and they began to prepare. When Folake and Aderonke went to practice, Yetunde would tell Adebimpe to stay behind and do the chores. Adebimpe could barely have time to rehearse. Yetunde tried her best to keep Adebimpe from taking part in the competition. When the day of the competition came, the villagers were gathered in the village square. Yetunde warned Adebimpe not to participate in the dance and that she should stay at home and do the chores. Adebimpe was so sad, but her instinct told her to go to the dance. Adebimpe quickly finished the chores and ran to the village square. She didn't want her stepmother to see her, so she hid behind a tree and quietly watched the dance without participating in it. When the festival was almost over, Adebimpe quietly left the square and ran home so her stepmother would not know her whereabouts. On her way home, she met an old woman carrying a heavy load of firewood on her head. Adebimpe quickly ran to the old woman and helped her with the load. When the old woman got to her destination, she thanked Adebimpe for her kindness and asked her for her name. Adebimpe introduced herself and the old woman prayed for her. She gave Adebimpe a coral bead, telling her to keep it safe as it drives away bad spirits. Adebimpe kept the bead very safe and she went home, feeling a sense of hope and protection. Months later, a young man named Ayotunde came to Olumide's house to seek for Adebimpe's hand in marriage. Ayotunde was a young farmer from a well-respected home. Yetunde was jealous because she did not want Adebimpe to get married before her daughters, as there would be no one to do the chores in the house. She came up with all sorts of excuses in order to delay the marriage. 1 week later, another young man named Babajide came to Olumide's house to also seek for Adebimpe's hand in marriage. Babajide was richer than Ayotunde. Yetunde decided to let Adebimpe marry Ayotunde, and Folake married Babajide. Olumide asked her daughters if they were okay with the arrangement, and they both said yes. Adebimpe married Ayotunde and Folake married Babajide. A few months later, Yetunde found out that Ayotunde was not as poor as she thought. In fact, he owned the majority of the plantation in the village, including the one Babajide worked for. He disguised himself as a poor farmer in order to find an honest and hardworking wife. Yetunde was so jealous and angry that Adebimpe got to marry a very wealthy husband and her son-in-law's employer. Yetunde could not contain her jealousy anymore, and she connived with her second daughter Aderonke to destroy Adebimpe's marriage and have Ayotunde marry Aderonke. It wasn't long before the charm Yetunde and Aderonke brought from the witch doctor started working. Ayotunde, under despair, started mistreating Adebimpe. He would reject Adebimpe's food and accuse her of trying to poison him. This went on for weeks. Adebimpe was heartbroken and confused, not understanding why her loving husband had changed drastically. She cried herself to sleep many nights, praying for a solution. One fateful day, Ifedayo, the youngest stepsister, overheard the plot and decided to tell Adebimpe. Ifedayo had always felt bad about how Adebimpe was treated and had finally found the courage to help her. She secretly met Adebimpe and told her everything about the charm and the evil plans. Adebimpe was shocked and started crying because she never expected it from her stepmother and stepsister. Then she remembered the coral bead the old woman gave to her. She quickly ran to her room, retrieved the bead and placed it on her husband's wrist. Immediately she did that, Ayotunde came back to his senses and apologized for everything he did to her. He was confused because that was not who he was. Yetunde and Aderonke immediately went blind. Olumide could not stand the shame any longer, and so he sent them out of his house. Adebimpe became very close to Ifedayo and helped her whenever she could. With Yetunde and Aderonke gone, Adebimpe and Ayotunde's marriage flourished. They continued to work very hard, and their hard work paid off, and the entire family lived in happiness. This is the end of this story. That is it for today's story. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and share with your friends. Subscribe and hit the bell for updates. Let us know where you are watching from in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. A long time ago, in a small village named Uki, there lived a beautiful girl named Omo. Omo was stunningly beautiful, with a smile that lit up the room and eyes that shined like gold. Her hair was long and silky. Her figure was perfectly shaped, graceful and elegant, with a curve that were just right. She moved so smoothly and effortlessly that everyone around her couldn't help but admire her. But that was not all that she was. Omo possessed bravery that seemed almost superhuman. No obstacle was too daunting for her. Her bravery was so extraordinary that it felt like she could conquer anything that came her way. Omo was the oldest of 4 sisters. All her sisters were married except her. Omo was undoubtedly one of the most beautiful women in the village. Her beauty and bravery caught the eyes of many men in Oke. She had a lot of marriage proposals, but Omo turned them down because of what her mother Itwa went through in her marriage. So Omo made up her mind not to make the same mistake as her mother, who married into the wrong family. Many years passed. Omo was still unmarried. People in the village began to mock her and her mother, saying that she might have been cursed by a spirit husband. But this did not move Omo. Her mother Itwa was very worried because all her mates were already married and even done giving birth. Itwa had to do something, and she thought her daughter was not getting any younger. One day, when Omo was coming back from the market, she encountered some thieves. Omo defended herself. She fought back so that they did not succeed in taking her money. But her strength weakened as she was outnumbered. Soon she fell on the ground. Just when they were about to take her money, a young man came from the bush and attacked them, scaring the thieves away. Omo was still too weak, so he took her home to her mother. Later that day, he came to visit Omo and found out that she was stronger. Omo thanked him and asked him for his name. His name was Udo. Udo had the kind of chiseled features that seemed sculpted by the gods. His dark, expressive eyes had a mesmerizing intensity, capable of drawing anyone in with just a natural glance. Udo moved with grace and confidence that made it seem as though the very ground was honored to support his steps, embodying the proud and vibrant spirit of a true African man. He was the only son of his widowed mother. He was visiting his farm when he saw the incident. Ever since that day, Omo and Udo became very good friends. Not too long, Udo developed feelings for Omo and asked her to be his wife. Omo refused at first, but Udo was patient with her and he remained her friend. When Itwa, Omo's mother, found out that she had rejected Udo's proposal, she was heartbroken because Udo was a good man, and so she came up with an idea. She pretended to be dying and made Omo promise to marry Udo before the next two market day. Omo, touched by her mother's condition, promised her and accepted Udo's proposal. Not too long, her mother became well, but it was too late to turn back as the promise had already been made, and Omo had to accept Udo's proposal. On the agreed date, Omo and Udo got married and they began to live together as husband and wife. Omo helped Udo to expand his wealth. She would sell the harvest from the farm herself instead of selling it to the market women at wholesale prices. Not too long, Udo's farm expanded, surpassing that of his competitors, and they became richer. Udo would shower Omo with gifts, even when there was no occasion. All was well until one day, Udo's mother Akugbe moved in with them. Akugbe had always wanted to move in with them, but Udo refused because he wanted to live a very peaceful life with his wife. But he knew that would not be possible because his mother did not like Omo. Udo tried all he could to keep his mother away from his wife, but she showed up unannounced after her heart went ablaze. Omo was so happy to see her mother-in-law. She welcomed her warmly, gave her some food and shelter. Akugbe never wanted Udo to marry Omo because of the hatred she had for Itwa. It turned out to be that Akugbe and Omo's father were lovers in their youth. But Omo's father ended up marrying Itwa, which broke Akugbe's heart, and she never forgave Itwa for marrying the love of her life. Akugbe transferred the hatred to Omo and vowed to make her life miserable. Akugbe was a very diabolic woman. She used all sorts of dark powers. One of the reasons Udo stayed away from her. Udo was uncomfortable with the idea of his mother staying in their house. He suggested that she should go and live with one of her sisters, but Akugbe refused. Omo tried to talk him out of the idea, but Udo's mind was made up because of the kind of woman his mother was. Not too long, Akugbe began to show her true character. She rejected Omo's food and made her run all sorts of errands for her. And when Udo came home, she would lie that Omo had been disrespectful to her. Udo paid no attention because he knew the kind of woman his mother was. One day, when Udo returned from work earlier than usual, he saw Omo sadly washing a huge pile of clothes. It was his mother's clothes, both clean and dirty. Udo was angry. He told Omo to go inside and asked one of the servants to continue from where she stopped. Akugbe was angry. She confronted Udo, but Udo warned her never to treat Omo like a maid ever again. Akugbe was bitter. So she has succeeded in bewitching you. I will teach that witch a lesson, Akugbe said angrily to Udo. Udo asked Omo why she never complained about his mother to him. But Omo told him that she did not want him to have an issue with his mother. The next day, Udo started making preparation for his mother's hut to be rebuilt. Akugbe was not happy, as she would not be able to torment Omo again. But Udo did not care. It did not take long. The hut was built. The night Akugbe was to leave, she overheard Omo and Udo celebrating. It turned out to be that Omo was pregnant. Akugbe was not happy because she never wanted Omo to have a successful marriage, not knowing she was also hurting her son. That night, she came up with a big excuse so that she wouldn't have to leave the house the next morning. Akugbe pretended to be very sick. When Omo and Udo saw her, they felt pity for her and let her stay in the house. But this was just a distraction to buy her some time. When Omo and Udo left the house, Akugbe went to see a powerful juju man who gave her some charms to ruin Omo's life. The charm was to make Omo lose her pregnancy and make Udo hate her. Akugbe did as instructed by the juju man. She put it in their food. Udo ate everything, but due to the early pregnancy symptom, Omo began to vomit and she lost her appetite. In order not to annoy her mother-in-law, she gave the food to her maid to eat. But luckily, nothing happened to the maid. The next day, Udo began to act strange. He began to abuse Omo, calling her a witch. Omo was shocked at the sudden change of character. Akugbe was happy, and she constantly accused her of being a witch. Finally, the spell had been broken, and my son is free from your witchcraft, Akugbe said to Omo. Omo would cry every day and night. Soon, the news spread round the village, and when Itwa heard about Udo's behavior, she came and took Omo away from the house. Akugbe was happy. She thought she had succeeded, not knowing Omo was still pregnant. When Omo and her mother got home, she narrated everything to her. Itwa was shocked because she knew Udo to be a good man. The sudden change is not ordinary. Omo, I think Akugbe had a hand in this. But I will not allow you to go back to that house, as it might be too dangerous considering you are pregnant. Itwa said to Omo as she encouraged her to stay strong. Omo and her mother continued to live together while Akugbe took over her home. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Omo gave birth to a bouncy baby boy. Akugbe was shocked to hear the news, but still neither her or Udo came to visit Omo. Rather, she chose a girl from the village and asked Udo to marry her. When Omo and Itwa heard about the wedding preparation, they were heartbroken. Over my dead body will I stand and watch a fellow woman destroy my daughter's home. I must find a solution to this madness, Itwa said to Omo. That day, Itwa went to see the king. She fell on the floor and began to narrate everything. Fortunately, the chief priest was in the palace. He confirmed that truly Udo was under a spell. The chief priest asked Omo and Itwa to take him to Udo. When they got there, they met Udo and Akugbe. They were shocked. Immediately, the chief priest went round the house, made some sacrifices and incantations. Shortly after, all the charms in the house were destroyed. Udo immediately realized that he was under a spell. Akogbe fell down and she became paralyzed. The chief priest asked them to take her far away from their home, as she was consumed by evil. Days later, she died. Omo and Ito narrated everything to Udo, as he had no knowledge of what had happened. They thanked the chief priest for his help. Udo was so happy to see his son. "You mean you had our child, and I never came to visit?" Udo said to Omo, as he apologized for everything that had happened. He thanked his mother-in-law and took his wife and son home, where they lived happily ever after. This is the end of this story. Thank you for listening to this story. If you want us to make more videos, hit on the like and subscribe button. And do not forget to share this video, as people may learn a lot from it. We love and appreciate you. Bye. Once upon a time, in a village at Ile-Ife, there lived a great king called Oba Adekunle. He was a very popular king who ruled his people gloriously. Oba Adekunle was a very happy king who loved his people dearly. But he had one issue: his wife, Olori Funke. She was the direct opposite of the king, to the extent the villagers thought she might have used charms on him. Olori Funke was very arrogant and disrespectful, even to Oba Adekunle. She refused to bear him children for her own selfish reasons. Rumor had it that she even terminated her pregnancy at a time. But still, Oba Adekunle's love for her was unwavering. Maybe because he never got to experience love in his life. And so he appreciated the little Olori Funke had to offer. After 10 years of being king, Oba Adekunle decided to throw a huge festival to celebrate his achievements over the years. The festival was so large as Oba Adekunle invited everyone in the village, from the little child to the old. Everyone was so happy to attend. During the festival, the chief priest summoned Oba Adekunle, Olori Funke, and the chiefs for some blessings in the throne room. They all hurried down, including Oba Adekunle, but Olori Funke asked his servants to inform the chief priest to wait, as she wanted to go and change to another attire. This was an abomination, because the chief priest was the eye of the gods and no one dared to disrespect him until that very day. The chief priest, with the wisdom of the gods, made a decree that Olori Funke would be stripped off of all royal privileges and immediately banished from the village. Oba Adekunle began to plead on her behalf. "For your sake, she might live in the palace, but you must never warm her bed, and she must never step foot in this throne room ever again, or else her soul would depart," the chief priest declared. All the chiefs agreed, because they had had enough of her disrespect. Immediately, the news flew across the palace and all attendees were talking about it. Olori Funke heard about her fate from the gossip among the villagers. She decided to meet the chief priest, but it was too late, as the throne room was shut against her. That became the most shameful day of her life. A queen without royal privileges, the villagers whispered amongst themselves. Oba Adekunle had no choice than to accept the condition, rather than to accept the option of Olori Funke being cast out of the village like a common criminal. Few weeks passed, and Olori Funke was still unable to meet the king. She felt humiliated and decided to teach the king and the kingdom a lesson. She plotted with some guards and paid them a huge sum of money to assassinate the king, so her lover Chief Rotimi would take over the throne, as the king had no heir. But unfortunately for her, a palace servant named Ayodele overheard their plot and decided to secretly tell the king about it. Oba Adekunle was shocked, as he never expected that from his so-called wife. He decided to set a trap for them. He played along like he never knew about the plot. And when they were about to attack, they were ambushed. Olori Funke took to her heels and ran far away from the palace to escape being persecuted. The next day, the king assembled the chiefs and the chief priests alongside with Ayodele. Oba Adekunle thanked Ayodele for saving his life. "For this good you have done, ask me of any favor, be it farmland, houses or money. I will give it to you, for you have proven to be trustworthy," Oba Adekunle joyfully said. "I only have one wish, my king," Ayodele said. "Speak, I will grant you whatever it may be," the king ordered. "My only wish is for you to marry my sister, your highness," Ayodele said. Everyone in the palace were shocked at the request. There was murmuring, followed by a great silence. Oba Adekunle wanted to protest, but he remembered that he had already given him his words. "If that is your wish, so shall it be. But first, she has to be presented before the eye of the gods to confirm if she's capable before history repeats itself," Oba Adekunle said, as everyone nodded in agreement. Ayodele went outside and brought his sister to the chief priest. She was fully clothed and her face covered with a veil. As she entered the throne room, everywhere was silent, as they all wondered who could be behind the veil. The chief priest did all that was necessary, after which he told the king that she possessed a pure and innocent spirit. Everyone was happy. "That is good. You may now take off your veil so that we may see you," Oba Adekunle ordered. She gently lifted her veil, and behold, she was a vision of perfection. Everyone gazed at her. Her beauty was like that of 7 princesses. Her eyes were bold and beautiful, and her skin glowed like polished ebony. Her beauty was unique to the extent the king was on his feet without realizing it. No one had ever seen such beauty before. "She's all I have. All my life I have raised her like a princess, my king. All I wish is for her to live the life befitting of a queen," Ayodele pleaded. "Your wish is granted. This is a privilege," the king responded as he continued to stare at the beautiful maiden. "What is your name?" Oba Adekunle asked. "My name is Sade, my king," she answered. Her voice was like a gentle caress to the ear, soft and melodious. Oba Adekunle immediately fell in love with her. The proper arrangements were made and the date for the wedding was chosen. A week later, a huge wedding feast was held to celebrate the king and his new queen. Everyone in the village drank, ate, and celebrated, as they never liked Olori Funke. and they were happy that the king had finally married another wife. Not only was Olori Shade beautiful, she was kind towards everyone and the people loved her in return. Olori Shade showed Oba Adekunle so much love, and in the space of 3 weeks, she conceived. Oba Adekunle was so happy. He realized that he had been suffering in the hands of Olori Funke. Not too long, the news of the queen's pregnancy spread round the village, and the villagers were very happy. But this happiness was shortened when Olori Funke heard about it in her hideout. She was furious. She connived with her distant cousin who worked as a palace maid, and together they succeeded in almost killing Olori Shade, which led to the termination of her pregnancy. Oba Adekunle and Olori Shade were devastated, and he vowed to bring the perpetrators to book. Oba Adekunle secretly launched an investigation and found out about Olori Funke's cousin, the palace maid. She was punished, after which she led them to Olori Funke's hideout. Olori Funke and her cohorts were made to face the consequences of their actions. This sent a great warning to their enemies. The loss of their unborn child bore a hole in their hearts, but together they overcame the trial. Olori Shade's love for Oba Adekunle did not stop, and together they bore and raised beautiful children and lived happily ever after. This is the end of this story. Hope you liked it. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, comment where you are watching from or what you learned. And do not forget to share this video to your loved ones. Until next time, see you. Once upon a time, there lived a man named Chief Nnamdi. He had a wife named Ebube. Chief Nnamdi and his wife were married for many years without a child. One day, the gods blessed them and Ebube conceived, and they were overjoyed. Meanwhile, King Chima sought more powers to dominate and possess the neighboring villages and consulted the oracle. To his worst surprise, the chief priest saw a prophecy. A son born of the soil would kill the king and take over the throne. According to the prophecy, this boy was to be born before the next New Yam festival. When King Chima heard this, he was terrified and ordered all the pregnant women in the kingdom to be arrested and killed, including those known to conceive that year. Hearing this, Chief Nnamdi and Ebube were afraid and decided to keep the pregnancy a secret. When Ebube's stomach started getting bigger, Nnamdi told her not to leave the house and to conceal her belly with layers of clothes. They tried to escape several times, but the king's guards were everywhere. So, Nnamdi took his pregnant wife through the forest to the river leading to Agbede, a neighboring village and the enemy of the land. Nnamdi was waiting for his wife to cross to the other side of the river when he heard the king's guard approaching. He quickly hid himself in the bushes. The guards heard the footsteps, and when they were approaching them, Ebube ran towards the river. One of the guards pierced her with a spear, and she fell into the river, carried away by the current. When the guards left, Nnamdi searched the river area for his wife, but could not find her. He cried and cried, but she never came back. Nnamdi thought Ebube had died instantly. Unknown to him, the river had taken Ebube to Agbede, where she found herself at the river bank. Ebube managed to get into the bush but she went into labor. She screamed for help, but there was no one to assist her. Moments later, she gave birth to a baby boy, but started bleeding heavily. Too weak to move, she tried to scream for help when suddenly a hunter named Ezioke heard the cry of a baby and searched the forest to find the source. He saw the baby beside his mother. Ezioke tried to help Ebube, but she was too weak. With her last breath, she asked Ezioke to promise that he would take care of her son before she died. Ezioke buried Ebube and took the baby home. He told his wife all that had happened, and she agreed to take care of the child. They named the child Chukwudi. Ezioke and his wife raised Chukwudi as their own child. They never revealed the truth about his birth. Chukwudi grew up to be a very hardworking young man. He joined his father in hunting and also learned about herbs from Ezioke's friend. One day, King Chima attacked Agbede and took over the land. He captured all the men, including Chukwudi and Ezioke, and took them as slaves to work in the palace. They would work day and night with little or no food. At night, when they were locked in, Chukwudi would start singing. Everyone loved his song, and soon the Princess Uloma started noticing him. She would purposely stay out to hear Chukwudi sing. She grew fond of him and soon became friends with him. Princess Uloma was nothing like her father. She was very kind to people and to Chukwudi. She brought food for all the prisoners, including Ezioke, as the king barely gave them enough food to eat. When Princess Uloma could no longer bear their suffering, she told Chukwudi that she would help them escape and that it would take place in the next market day, when everyone was asleep. Chukwudi agreed and told everyone about the plan, and they all prepared. The day came and the prison gate was opened. Ezioke told Chukwudi to go with the others and escape, saying he had unfinished business with King Chima. Chukwudi was worried and begged Ezioke to come with them, but he refused. Ezioke took a machete and quietly went into the palace to kill King Chima. Chukwudi could not let him go alone, so he took a knife and went inside the palace to look for Ezioke. When he got there, he saw Ezioke on the floor bleeding. Chukwudi tried helping him, but the king saw him and drew his machete. Chukwudi pushed him and stabbed him in the chest. Immediately, the calabash in the shrine fell and broke, and the chief priest knew that the prophecy had been fulfilled. Chukwudi was arrested and the news spread throughout the village. The next morning, when Nnamdi heard the news, he immediately ran to Chukwudi with so much joy in his heart. The chief priest ordered Chukwudi's release, as it was his destiny to redeem the land. Ezioke told Chukwudi everything that had happened and how he was born, and Chukwudi was reunited with his father, Chief Nnamdi. Chukwudi married Princess Uloma, and he was crowned king since King Chima had no son. He united both kingdoms and ended the war and hatred between them. He passed a law that forbade slavery, and the people in the kingdom grew in love and harmony, with no more war between them. This is the end of this story. The moral lesson of this story is that destiny is powerful and cannot be changed. Despite King Chima's attempt to prevent the prophecy, Chukwudi's rightful place as a leader emerged. The tale also highlights the virtues of kindness, bravery, and the importance of standing against injustice, as seen in Princess Uloma's compassion and Chukwudu's courage. Ultimately, it reminds us that true leadership fosters unity and harmony, bringing peace and prosperity to the people. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more inspiring stories like this. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts on the story and any lesson you took away from it. Until next time, may your paths be guided by courage and compassion. Take care, and we'll see you in our next video. Once upon a time, in the lovely city of Benin, there lived two beautiful sisters named Osarugwe and Esosa. They came from a very respected home. Their mother was a trader and they had no father. Osarugwe would join her mother in the market to sell, while Esosa stayed at home, lazing around and gossiping with her friends. Osarugwe tried several times to change her sister, but Esosa wanted to waste her time doing nothing. Osarugwe did all she could to get a better life for her family. She provided everything they ever wanted. One day, a woman named Madam Iyobosa came to their house and told Osarugwe's mother about a job opportunity abroad and how she would like to take Osarugwe overseas for the job. Osarugwe was so happy. At last, a high-paying job. Osarugwe told Madam Iyobosa that she was interested in the offer. Her mother was skeptical at first, but later agreed for Osarugwe to go, as the job would also help further her education. Esosa was so angry and jealous because she wanted to be the one to go with Madam Iyobosa. Not long after, it was time for Osarugwe to travel overseas. She told Esosa to take care of their mother and also promised to send them money, especially for their mother's medication. Before she left with Madam Iyobosa, Osarugwe's mother was happy that at last the family story was about to change. Esosa was still angry that it wasn't her who got to travel. Unknown to them, Madam Iyobosa was a human trafficker. She had taken Osarugwe and some other girls to a far place in the northern part of the country to be trafficked. When Osarugwe found out who Madam Iyobosa was, she tried to escape, but the entire place was guarded by people who worked for Madam Iyobosa. She realized that her freedom was gone. Madam Iyobosa made their lives so difficult. They would work day and night with little or no food to eat. Whenever Osarugwe and the other girls wanted to speak with their families, they were constantly warned not to tell them where they were and what they were doing, or they would be killed. So Osarugwe's family thought that she was doing well abroad and never knew the situation she was in. Osarugwe worked day and night for Madam Iyobosa, but she would get pennies and sometimes nothing. Osarugwe would gather everything and send it to her family through Madam Iyobosa, as that was the only option she had. She tried to escape with some other girls several times, but she never succeeded. Each time she was caught, Madam Iyobosa would order her boys to beat her, leaving her with bruises. This went on for a very long time. Whenever Osarugwe spoke to her sister, she would tell her what to invest the money in. Esosa was the only friend and trusted ally since their mother passed. She was sending all her money to her to invest and also some parts for Esosa's upkeep. Osarugwe did this so that whenever she managed to escape or walk free after the years Madam Iyobosa demanded, she would have something to start life with and not just to be left empty-handed. Osarugwe worked for Madam Iyobosa for 10 good years before finally gaining her freedom. As soon as she got out, she contacted her sister Esosa. Esosa was shocked and unhappy at the same time. Osarugwe asked for her address and Esosa began to act strange. She came up with one excuse after another, saying she was not in town at the moment. Osarugwe waited for her sister for weeks until she was unable to take it any longer. One day, she decided to find her herself. She knew Esosa was in Benin as she was the one paying for her house rent. Osarugwe asked about her for days until someone who knew Esosa showed her her address. When she got to the address, it was a very big and beautiful mansion. Osarugwe was surprised because the money she was sending to Esosa obviously could not rent that kind of house. Esosa started behaving strangely, trying to stop Osarugwe from entering the house, but a man came out and interrupted her. He asked Esosa who Osarugwe was, and Esosa told him that she was a distant cousin. Osarugwe was shocked, but did not say anything to the man except greetings. Esosa asked Osarugwe to meet her at a nearby restaurant later that day, and Osarugwe left. Osarugwe made some inquiries and discovered that the man was Esosa's husband, and they also had a child together. Osarugwe was surprised because Esosa never told her about her new family. When Osarugwe confronted Esosa and asked her why she denied her in front of her husband, Esosa insulted her, calling her a prostitute and a second-hand girl. She threatened to call the police to arrest Osarugwe for disturbing her peace. Osarugwe was stunned and hurt by Esosa's words. Despite this, she pressed on and asked her about their family, where she buried their mother, and also where she invested her money. Esosa told Osarugwe that she invested the money in goods that sunk in the ocean, which was a terrible lie. Osarugwe was shocked and she started to cry. She asked Esosa why she never told her, and Esosa said nothing. Osarugwe started reflecting on everything, her experience with Madam Iyobosa, and also her wasted years. She asked Esosa to give her some money, as she was left with nothing. But Esosa told her that she had no money and her money was tied down in some businesses. Osarugwe went into depression, and days later she attempted to take her life. However, someone saved her and also gave her shelter. When Esosa's husband saw Osarugwe, he knew something was wrong and started asking about her. This went on for months until someone who knew them from childhood told him everything. He was shocked and decided to ask his wife Esosa again. Esosa told him that Osarugwe was a distant cousin and no one important. Esosa's husband went to look for Osarugwe and asked her everything that had happened. Osarugwe told him everything. He helped launch an investigation on Madam Iyobosa and her cohorts, and they were brought to book. He also secretly gave Osarugwe some money to start up a business, for he was a very kind and generous man. Esosa's husband later discovered that Esosa was more wicked than he thought. She had squandered Osarugwe's money on numerous partners, which included married men. If she can do this to her own flesh and blood, who am I that she can't betray? He said to himself. He sent Esosa packing, for they were only married traditionally, and he also took their daughter with him. Esosa was left with nothing, as all the property were in his name. Not too long after, Esosa squandered the money that was with her, and she had no choice than to go into the streets and face the hard life, for there was no one to help her. The moral lesson of this story is family should trust and support each other, and honesty is always better than deceit. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Remember, in life, trust in family bond is precious. Honesty prevails over deceit, and resilience conquers hardship. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, comment, and share. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales, and hit on the notification bell so you don't miss an update. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, stay strong and keep believing in the power of hope. Bye. The young girl is possessed by evil spirits and should not be allowed to live among us. Uneng, I agree with you. She might possess us or even our children. The villagers said to each other as they made a decision to inform the king. Once upon a time, there lived a widow named Ebere. She had a daughter named Ebube. When Ebube was few years old, she developed a rare illness which is now called epilepsy. This troubled Ebere so much. She searched everywhere for the cure, but no one was able to help her. They were not even able to tell the cause of the illness. One day, when Ebube was playing with her friends, she had a seizure. Her friends began to scream. Ebere quickly came out and held Ebube closely in order to stop the seizure. When the villagers heard this, they went into the village and started gossiping. The young girl is possessed by evil spirits and should not be allowed to live among us. Uneng, I agree with you. She might possess us or even our children. The villagers said to each other as they made a decision to inform the king. Later that day, while Ebere was still busy taking care of Ebube, looking for the cure to her illness, some women marched to the king's palace and told him all they saw. The king was surprised. He summoned Ebere, Ebube, and the chief priest. When they all arrived, the king asked Ebere to explain everything, which she did. The king further asked the chief priest to confirm if what she was saying was true. After some time of consulting the gods, the chief priest told the king that Ebere was right, that truly it was a strange illness and Ebube was not possessed. When the villagers heard this, they began to murmur. The king instructed them not to trouble Ebube and Ebere again, as the weight of the illness was already telling on her. Ebere thanked the king and took her daughter home. This judgment did not sit well with some of the villagers. They warned their children to stay away from Ebube and her mother, as they believed she was a witch even after all the chief priests had said. Whenever Ebube comes out to play with her friends, they would start bullying her and calling her a witch. Ebube would go home crying. Ebere was fed up with the constant bullying. She warned the children and their parents to stay away from her daughter, but her words fell on deaf ears. Some of the villagers asked her to sacrifice Ebube to the river goddess, that she was of no use. Those words pierced Ebere's heart. and she decided to take Ebube far away from the public's eye. She told Ebube not to be coming out of the house and also to stop associating with the villagers. This continued for years. Ebere was unable to find the cure to Ebube's illness. Ebube grew up to be a beautiful girl, but her mother prevented her from going out to associate with the villagers. Some days, she would cry, wondering why she was so different from the rest children. But this did not stop her mother from protecting her. One day, Ebere became very sick. Ebube prepared herbs for her, but the condition became worse. Ebube was so worried that something bad might happen to her mother. She knew about the herbalist who lived close to the market square, but Ebube was so scared that the villagers might do something hurtful to her. She had no choice than to visit the herbalist, as that was the only way to save her mother. Ebube quietly followed the bush path so no one would see her. When she got to the herbalist, she told him everything, and the herbalist gave her some herbs to give to her mother Ebere. On her way home, some villagers saw her and started bullying her, calling her a witch. Ebube began to cry, but before she realized it, a group of people gathered around her, and they continued to bully her. When she attempted running, they caught her and began to beat her. Not too long, Ebube started having seizures. The villagers immediately left her there and ran away, and Ebube died few moments later. Later that day, Ebere became worried because Ebube had not returned from the herbalist. She decided to look for her daughter, as she had never stayed out that long. She went to the herbalist, but the herbalist told her that Ebube had left his place a while ago. She continued looking for Ebube. After a while, she decided to search the bush, and she found her daughter lying lifeless on the bush path. Ebere screamed and rushed towards Ebube, but she found out that her daughter had died with bruises all over her body. Ebere immediately knew that the villagers had a hand in Ebube's death. Ebere went into the market in her broken state and laid a curse on the villagers. They all buried their heads in shame, but no one came to console her. Ebere buried Ebube close to the hut. Ebere could not bear the loss of her child, and few days later, she was found dead in her lonely hut. Not too long, almost every home in the village started losing a child. They were terrified and decided to seek for the cause of it because it was becoming alarming. They visited different native doctors and seers, but no one was able to solve their problems. The chief priest told them that they were cursed. Only the few people who were engaged the villagers bullying Ebube were not affected by the curse. The entire village was in chaos, and soon all those who attacked Ebube and caused her death began to die one after the other. All the villagers were instructed by the chief priest to offer sacrifices to the gods, which they did in order to free them from the bondage they were in. After the sacrifice was made, they all gathered at Ebube and Ebere's graveside and asked for their forgiveness before the curse was broken. The villagers were free from the curse, but they were made to take an oath never to mock anyone again. If not, they will be struck by thunder and lightning. And they all did. The chief priest went to Ebube and Ebere's graveside and thanked them for forgiving the villagers. Ever since then, the story of Ebere and her daughter Ebube was being told to children in order for them not to bring calamity upon the land, and the villagers began to live in love and oneness. This is the end of this story. The moral lesson of this story is to do away with bullying as it causes pain to people, and karma may one day visit the perpetrators. Thank you for listening to this story. If you want us to make more videos, hit on the like and subscribe button. And do not forget to share this video as people may learn a lot from it. We love and appreciate you. Bye.